Dear Trekkies and Trekkers, our tribute to episode 16, Shuttlepod 1, will debut later this season with a very special episode, so please stay tuned. For now, please enjoy episode 17, Fusion, with our dear friend, Miss Phyllis Strong.
The show has begun with Connor and Dom. It's the
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Trekkies and Trekkers, welcome back to another episode of the Decon Chamber. I'm your co-host, Dominic Keating, joined as always with my fellow co-host, my bestie, Mr. Connor Trinneer. Welcome.
Heyo.
We're very, very excited this week to be talking about the episode Fusion. And in that capacity, we have Miss Phyllis Strong with us here in the room in the Decon Chamber to talk about writing it with her writing partner, Mr. Mike Sussman at the time. Phyllis, welcome aboard, my dear. Thanks very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
It's lovely to see you after all these years. We bumped into each other at the Voyager film documentary, which was nice to see you at. And I know that's getting tinkered with, and then it's going to get released. And I think he's found about a buyer already. So it's
great, because I want to get a copy of it.
So you'd worked with Rick Berman and Brannon before on Voyager, hadn't you?
Yes, I had.
Yeah.
Just the last year, Mike and I came on. The short of it was they were looking for a woman writer because that was back in the days when they didn't have any. And I had worked with Mike on a previous show, and he had nearly gotten onto Voyager, and there was a script that he had done that hadn't worked. And so it didn't make sense that he wasn't on it. And I talked to him about putting our names in together and actually starting what it was a bit of a shotgun marriage, but worked out very well. We partnered for this.
All right.
And we worked with Brannon. We did an audition script, which became Body and Soul, a very popular one on Voyager. Right. And we ended up writing 3 more scripts for those, for Voyager. And then we were, I think, the first people asked to come along onto Enterprise.
Is that right?
Oh, wow.
Did you ever have aspirations to write alone, and Mike too, or did you always know you wanted to?
We did, and we had before. So it was an interesting partnership in that we had to get to know each other and get to know each other's styles. And what we did was write different scenes and then send them to the other and have them rewritten. There are people who, when they're partners, they stand in a room together and just kind of blurt out the dialogue, and one person's at the computer. But we were more of what's done very often, which is kind of a path.
That's how Connor and I worked, actually.
Yeah.
I just blurt out his lines at him. And then he'd say them, and they'd get it on tape.
Oh, perfect. Well, I knew you were his muse.
Yeah, all these years later.
Phyllis, you came from law, didn't you?
I came from business. I came from investment banking. Right. And then business in the studios. So I was working for 20th Century Fox, helping them raise money and buy other companies and things like that. And then they had an experimental TV movie company that I went to help run.
Right.
And that turned out to fail. And I had, as it was, for very specific reasons that had to do with Fox and Barry Diller and how he liked everybody to compete. And we were supposed to be supplying lots of TV movies. And Fox Broadcasting was like, we don't want to just take your movies. And it was all predicated on the fact that we would have a lot of output so we could get people to work for less because they'd be working steadily. And that didn't.
The movie business.
Yeah, the movie business. So I was left with a severance. I could have gone back into the company on business, but I'd really, especially with this TV movie company, had seen the whole development production side, and I really wanted to write as I always had. I just didn't have any way in when I was first trying to get into this business.
Yeah,
So,
what is I mean, because it's a very tricky one it's like directing. I mean, it's a very
yeah.
tricky nut to crack, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, especially. And I had met some agents during my time at Fox, and I had and I wrote a spec Deep Space Nine that got a lot of attention. And one of the reasons I love science fiction and was
Right.
doing that anyway, but one of the reasons in those days you would write Star Trek was that they would take
Right.
unrepresented scripts
That
and
was kind of known in the
yeah, it was very much known.
right.
And I got to go into pitch, didn't sell anything. I was young and stupid a lot.
You
And
too.
and I didn't keep trying to pitch because I was so sort of disappointed. Um, but other people like Mike went and pitched and he sold stuff. And I was able to write some more specs, get representation, and get on a syndicated show that was an adventure pirate kind of thing. And Mike worked on that, and that was how we met. And that was both our, or at least was my introduction to or the WGA. And
Right.
then so we knew each other, we had worked together. I did some other freelance stuff, and then this Star Trek opportunity came up. So
What was it like being, one? Were you the only woman in
I
on
was the only
season?
woman on Voyager.
Right.
Um, our first year when Fusion came out, we had some other women, but it was very much a boys' club.
Hmm.
And we were all, I was used to it from investment banking, which was purely a boys' club. So you kind of act like one of the guys. And when they're saying disgusting stuff or things that sort of turn your stomach, you're just like,
You just
yeah,
gobble them
sure,
up.
I can do it better.
Yeah, I got one of those. Let
Yeah,
me tell you.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Pass the whiskey and the cigars.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Those were the days.
Yes, those
Um,
were the days.
so this episode is a very interesting episode.
It is.
It's a very interesting Star Trek episode, and for a few reasons. It's the first one where we really get to sort of get a sense of Jolene and to Paul standing
Yes.
alone, and I thought that was worthy of note. And then to meet this other subsect of hippie Vulcans, as it were,
With all the feelings.
with all the
Right, with all of the feelings that they could express and
yeah,
control.
without getting in too deep into the trenches. And initially, I think I read that it was called Equilibrium, but there've been several other scripts of that title for Deep Space
Yeah,
Nine.
and Fusion was they were basically trying to look for some sort of mind meld uh synonym or something
Right,
that would kind of
right,
display that, but didn't necessarily display the twist on that because
right.
people knew about the mind melds from Spock in the original series and
Yeah.
from Tuvok and they hadn't really seen it this way.
So we come across this group of wandering. What do they call themselves?
You're Ratosh Couture.
Right, exactly.
I did. This is a note. This was the first time I think that Star Trek had ever been inside a Vulcan ship, and
I
seen the workings. I read
Oh.
that somewhere.
yes,
in prepping.
I think that was true. Certainly one of the civilian ships.
You gave up a great deal to wander the galaxy in a transport.
Right, because this was a sort of not a cargo ship, but something.
It was it was a kind of an exploration. It was
Right.
it was like the uh you know campers of
Yeah.
Vulcans.
The RVs.
They were all out in the RV doing
That's great.
doing
It's
their
interesting though. The very first note that I took on this was when Robert Pine, we can all say Robert
Yes.
Pine, father of Chris Pine,
Yeah.
Yes.
the Kirk. The first note that I took was in the teaser when he sits down at dinner with the captain and T'Pol, and what's that character's name?
Talaris or something.
Dolores, yeah.
Yes. At any rate, he says something before he even asks to try the chicken. He smiles.
Our chef's had a lot of experience lately preparing Vulcan dishes.
Right.
And I thought, wait a minute. That's it's a cue to what the episode will be about.
Right.
But nonetheless, I thought, wait a minute. Why is that Vulcan smiling? And it was a great little, for those who know, a great introduction into, well, this isn't normal.
All right. Yeah, indeed.
Exactly. And that was sort of the point, even when when Archer was talking to him on screen, there was this sense that he was not he didn't talk like a Vulcan.
My name is Tabin, captain of the Vulcans. It's very good to meet you.
Right.
Exactly.
But they were initially just asking for help. They needed some assistance with their, what was it?
Their engineer, their coils and
Their plasma
power
coils.
thing
It's
and
usually the plasma coils.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of our ways to get Trip into the story,
Right.
as always.
And then we go into the Arachnid Nebula.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it what you imagine, sir?
Pictures don't do it justice.
And there was that cute bit, this was Mike, about the astronomy book that Archer had as a kid.
Yes.
This was Mike's idea. So thank you. The little Admiral Johnny Archer
All right.
on
Yeah.
it.
From the library of Admiral Johnny Archer.
Showing that from a very young age, he was
That he had that aspiration, or that, he had a dream of hopefully
Exactly.
maybe doing that. Apparently, if I'm right in saying, Scotty from the original series mentions an Admiral Archer. Read that.
Where did you find that?
Oh, something like Memory Alpha or somewhere.
You mean Sarah?
Oh, it's J.J. Abrams' movie. I'm being
Which Scotty? The original Scotty?
no,
or the Scotty in-
Scotty, Simon Pegg Scotty.
Oh, Simon Pegg Scotty.
I tested it on Admiral Archer's prize Beagle.
Well, I know that dog. What happened to it?
I'll tell you when it reappears.
Yes, I would
We're in
definitely.
the nebula, and then we're getting to know these Vatar Kator Vulcans. I love the casting of Kov. He was great, and I understand he was not anywhere close to being the first choice. The initial guy fell ill, and then they offered it to someone else who was filming something else, and that clashed. And they got John Harrington Bland was his name, wasn't he? He was terrific, though, I thought.
Lovely.
I'd like that, Commander.
They call me Trip.
I
Yeah.
really liked him. Very grounded.
Yeah.
And he did a terrific
Job. He really did.
Really, I thought sort of the best emotional Vulcan with the best emotional story.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It was very, very grounded, very believable, very vulnerable, and yet just authentic. And yeah, I really liked his performance.
And it's interesting too, in the first act of the show, T'Pol thinks they're dangerous.
Others have tried to reintegrate their emotions. They all failed. What they're doing is dangerous.
Oh, well, she sees them as people who have turned their back on, ancient
Centuries.
Vulcan teachings.
Yeah.
And Surak and having his small statue there when they were really turning against what he had to say.
It's curious that people who reject Surak's teachings would display his likeness.
And it also alluded somewhat to an original series episode where Spock and McCoy, I think, are sent back to a time that's 5,000 years in the past. And Spock starts to revert to that primal nature because it was a time at which Vulcans were
Quite
violent.
pugnacious. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You listen to me, you pointed-eared Vulcan. I don't like that. I don't think I ever did, and now I'm sure.
You could see that T'Pol comes from a world and a culture that would have spoken of that as the dark times that they overcame.
Right. Right.
And I love that scene also in the first act of this where they're in the mess hall and she's got mint tea and he says that you don't have Vulcan tea?
What's that?
Mint tea.
And she's like, yeah, but I like to try some things. And then she's like, I even try chamomile. And he says that, oh, you've got a sense of humor. Well, maybe.
And you have a sense of humor. A concept that most Vulcans can't seem to grasp.
The most we could give her at
But I think that was really interesting. It was really, I mean, in a very short scene, it gives a dynamism to this relationship about, this Vulcan group who've sort of gone off into the woods, as it were, versus T'Pol, who is very strict and very non-emotive, very Vulcan, and presents herself that way. And we get, as an audience, a really interesting point that she's decided, I'm going to try mint tea. And
she's assimilating somewhat,
Yes, she
Exactly.
is. It's been a couple of months now. I think she says 7 months on.
Yeah.
And then she spent 2 years in
The high command on Earth.
on Earth.
Cisco,
And in some ways that perhaps made her even more aware of how she had to keep a distance from human emotion or really control it, because
it starts with mint tea.
it starts with mint tea. It's a slippery slope.
All of my worst decisions, I've started with mint tea.
Exactly.
The mint tea.
And see where she ends up later on with beryllium D and all of that kind of stuff.
I liked he's great, Enrique Marciano. He was terrific, wasn't he? I mean, I have to say, it was a lovely dualistic, performance he gave. And
I will say though that was one thing about him is sort of like that actor's note of, you want to fight them, you want to F them,
right?
You want to marry them.
You want to marry them, yeah,
right.
And he was definitely in the I want to F them thing.
Right. Oh, completely.
But that's, the thing about that's interesting to me is that if you go for it, and I believe that's what you're doing, I don't care.
No, right.
I don't care at all. Go ahead. That's, that I can be like, oh, well, because he came across initially, and he does end up being creepy, but he came across a little creepy. But he went.
Yeah, like he'd been smoking the Vulcan ganja,
Exactly.
Playing hacky sack at the Dead concert.
But he was also the guy who, while he was a little creepy, was had enough sex appeal.
He sure did. He had an alluring sex appeal, without a doubt. And
he also had something that seems as though he could have been one of those. I don't know what you like, those quasi-religious.
Yes.
That he was like, come to me.
Come
right.
to
Oh yeah, he could have been the cult leader kind of thing. But he was definitely, he so believed in what he was doing. And that was, I think, the honest part, the authentic part that got through and was getting through to T'Pol as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But this was a wonderful way of showing her not quite torn feelings, but interest in not necessarily being completely Vulcan, even though she's not aware of it consciously.
We needed to see that from T'Pol. And this was a very, very interesting way to do that.
It was a little, I will say that being the only woman really involved in this episode, the assault part was really hard to write.
Yeah, it felt Me Too-ish.
I was kind of years before that, of course, but I kind of felt like this is bigger than just how we're dealing with it. And I remember having some trouble calibrating
the
scene.
Because it comes back. I mean, the damage done in this forced meld, as it were, it comes back to haunt in later episodes that I wasn't particularly aware of. Even though I've watched this show, she's still sort of dealing with the
after
assault.
effects.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the after effects. You know,
The
even in
trauma, you
season
could
4,
say.
The trauma,
yeah.
and that's what I wouldn't say the original story. The story was done by Rick and Brannon, and we did the teleplay off of that. So
Right.
they did the beats of the story and the outline, and we brought it to life. But there wasn't really. I can't remember, and I don't think this is true, but it could have been true that they didn't have her in sick bay at the end as a kind of
Right, that she wasn't a victim.
yeah, that she wasn't as much of a victim
Right.
when we started, and it became very clear because this was also for Vulcan purists out there, mind melds are not
They're not common.
well, they're not common, and they're not, while they're invasive, they're not sexual.
Right.
And we were really doing a sexual assault version of the mind meld, which I thought was.
What did you think about the fact when he persuades her not to meditate that first evening?
Consider it an experiment.
And then she has this rather erotic,
and
unsettling
completely
dream.
erotic dream.
Do you like the taste?
Whose idea was that to bring that straight front and forward?
That was it was both of it. That was definitely, I had something to do with that. I usually had something to do with the sexy scenes. I was like, we needed some when
Right. Well, you got the boys in the blue knickers half the time, so you know, yeah.
I mean, and also, you know, when we get to that dream, it literally seems to become a different show. It's like a film noir.
It is.
And this comes to a question that I have. So when you're given story as a writer, are you given everything per act, or are you given the gist of what the idea is, and then you create that as the writer?
Well, you're given the gist of it sometimes, and you work out the story with like you're given the gist of it and some of the beats. In other words, we're going to have some way of Talaris and T'Pol connecting in the mess hall. But whether it's tea or how it's minty or what they're saying to each other, that all comes from Mike and me.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
That was some nice stuff with the tea, I have to say.
Really?
It
It said so much with, like, you know, not a lot of lines, and you know, and also with the scenes with Trip and
Kov,
those were great.
It was so interesting to me to see this episode as an opportunity for, one, the audience, and two, the characters, to get a chance to ask questions that would never otherwise be answered.
Yes.
And Trip was the perfect sort of foil for Kov.
Oh yes,
his father's,
especially about the once every 7 years.
Yeah.
We were just discussing Vulcan mating rituals. Vulcan males are driven to mate once every 7 years.
Yeah, when we're at the dining table and we're like, what?
7 years? Frightening.
Exactly.
What do you do the rest of the time? Crosswords?
Yes, we have sex. Like, okay. But the other thing that I thought was really nice is I really loved your story about regret.
Yes.
I thought that I think Mike. No, actually, I think I wrote that because I used the girl who got away was named after my two best friends from college.
Panama City, Florida. Girl I had a crush on. Melissa Lyles.
Oh, what was there? Something Kaya?
Melissa Lyles was
Melissa
I had
Lyles.
Melissa and
Right.
and Annery Lyles were my two best friends.
Isn't that funny how those names
Oh,
come out
that's
of? Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
love the line. Maybe you wrote it. I think it's Tripp's line: "A brush with regret."
You probably don't know this, but regret is one of the strongest emotions. I have a feeling you haven't had a brush with it yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a beautiful line. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I was just saying this before we started. This was the time where I, as the actor, began to feel settled, if that's the right word, into who he was. You know, he wasn't snarky. He'd been snarky for the first half of the season,
Right.
and he had developed into someone who could manage conversations like this. And in watching that, it did highlight for me that this was when this was Trip. This was who he was for the rest of the series.
Right. It gave him an emotional maturity that perhaps was not present as outlined as in this episode.
Well, remember, we were looking for the characters too.
Right.
And this was early. And they were a little more sketchy at the beginning. Certainly T'Pol was very sketched out, but not filled in the two-part pilot and things like that. So it was actually, from the writer's side, it was so wonderful watching you bloom and also take a bit of a custodial care of your character so that we could write off of that.
And I think, you know, one of the things that you were all, when you had an episode that was written by you and Mike, or you were there. And I think that's such an advantage to see what's going on set, to glean something for what you're going to do in the writer's room or on your own writing.
Yeah.
Very
much.
Yeah, and you know, I'm so thankful for that. You were one of the only ones who would come to see what's going on with your story.
Was it encouraged or discouraged?
It was a bit discouraged, actually. But I, like I said, young and stupid. I kind of needed it to be able to write. I used to also go down to the sets sometimes and just be able to feel the bridge so I could figure out where or how people were going. There was something to me I needed much more sort of tactile. But it was discouraged only because we were so busy and yet, and also because in truth, Rick and Brannon were of a philosophy that very tight control comes from the top.
Right.
So
we knew that. I mean,
yeah.
I always quote Liz, Rick's wife, when she took me aside at the first rap party, and she said, "Well, you know, Rick, Dominic, there's no control like total control."
And that was actually it. And I wasn't young and stupid. I wasn't as quite aware of what the repercussions could be of something like that.
Yeah, why do you say that? You've said it a couple of times, young and stupid. What does that mean to you now?
Oh, what it means to me now is that I would overstep some bounds. I would also, I didn't speak up as much as I would in the future about what direction we were going in or what we were doing with some of the female characters and things like that. But also when I was on set, There were times when I, got in the way and and would get talked to, and I felt so terrible, and it was just so um, uh, immature.
Yeah, they had a very shorthand of way of doing that, of just putting you in your place. I mean,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
general, and I witnessed it more than once, and yeah, I remember figuring out pretty early on, keep your mouth shut, Dom. You're working for the man, you know.
And that's when I say young and stupid, it was like I kind of thought I was used to a little bit from investment banking. Um, when you're in that much of a male environment, uh, you're kind of going like, I can take it, and you sort of push back a
Hmm.
lot at it. So I kind of felt like I was in the same bit of it's a bit of a frat boy environment. It's a bit of a Masters of the Universe environment.
Yeah.
Um, and I also, as a young woman, I was used to kind of getting away with pushing back because I was cute.
Right.
Right.
I
we should-
wonder. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you go ahead, mate. I was just.
I wonder, there was a time when they didn't know what sort of relationship was going to happen with T'Pol. And in the very beginning of our show, it seemed as though it was going to be
Yeah.
T'Pol and Archer. And
Yes.
there's a little scene with Trip and Archer where he says,
If I didn't know better, I'd say you were a little jealous.
"Well, if I didn't know better, I'd think you were
You'd be
jealous."
Jealous.
Yeah.
I
And,
saw
and-
that
and
from there.
was that planned? Was that planting a seed for what was potentially?
That was planting a seed. I'd say more could have come of that, but I think Scott was pretty opposed.
Yeah, because there's an episode just before this, isn't there, where they're captured together and they're tied up together and they have this tussle to try and get untied, and
Right.
they end up on top of each other on the inside. It's like it looked like wrestling sex, and
Well, hello.
Right, exactly.
and
well, that
you
was
sort of get the sense that they were setting that up somehow, and that this was a refrain of that.
I think a little of it came from me.
Right.
'Cause I just happen to like the more flirtatious, playful side of some of our scenes, or
Right.
could be. Um, so that was just kind of fun. But I always thought that there could be that there were strong feelings between Archer and T'Pol, but they ended up being more familial, more father-daughter, brother-sister, that kind of thing. But at
Yeah,
first,
strictly speaking, I mean, yes, I mean, even in the early 2000s, the age gap between them was a little striking to be,
right,
noticed,
exactly.
you know.
But I think it wouldn't have it would have been an interesting way to go. It would have opened up a lot of story.
And there was thought in the room that how are we going to find the connections between who was it
Yeah.
going to be?
Right. Well, how are we going to find the connections between people, and how are we going to then be able to dramatize the implications and the aftermath, or whatever else it
I mean, you
is?
might have painted yourself into a very small corner quite quickly if you had T'Pol and the captain,
Oh yeah, well, it wouldn't have come in the first season. It would have been something that was sort of evolving emotionally, if you will, as emotionally as you can with the Vulcan, over several episodes, several
It was
seasons.
very, very easy to put Trip through a ringer.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That was always
expendable. Who cares? Who cares? He only cares about catfish anyway. So
That's right. I'll go to your wedding.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. No, Trip was definitely, and especially as you said, when he started to turn and you started to settle into him as more of kind of the good guy, sensitive guy of the
a
Well, he
confidant.
developed a conscience.
yeah, the conscience of the crew. Then he also became a character who could embody some of the sort of sci-fi issue sort of things. What was the one where they created a clone of you?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, that was incredibly powerful.
It was. Was that Cogenitor?
No,
I
that was
think
Similitude.
It was Similitude.
Similitude, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the idea of, what is the value of a human life?
All right.
Yeah.
And it just made sense for Trip to wrestle with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You
know, I want to touch on the mind meld scene. Is the most emotional, powerful mind meld scene that I've ever seen between two people. You know,
Yes.
she's emotional, he's emotional. And what were you going for? Do you remember?
Well, one of the things
I'll
is
tell
that
you what I thought. I
Okay.
thought he was trying to reel her in.
You said you were invigorated. What else?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. You're just not used to describing your emotions.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get her emotions to the surface as to break through, which as we sort of saw from the rest of the episode was something that could potentially harm her.
Was that just to get her to come across to their side and their way of thinking, or did it have more nefarious intentions that he wanted her as a lover and a partner?
I think it wasn't quite nefarious. I think he was attracted to her, and when you're attracted to somebody, you want them to sort of
Yeah,
meld with how you're
come with the theology. Is it sort
right.
of,
Basically, not I don't think he was looking for a disciple. I think
right.
he was looking for a partner.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
That he would take her away and she'd go on the
with
what's the
them.
name of
Well,
their
there were
ship?
three guys anyway.
Yeah.
And I also think that he was looking to get her to he needed I think all three of them, but he was the main character who needed validation that what they were doing was right.
Right.
Yeah.
That they could handle it, that it was all fine. And I think T'Pol was a little bit of a challenge. She was a beautiful woman. She was gave off
I think we
little
say
hints.
female for Vulcans, don't we?
Yes. And she gave off little hints that she might be open to it. That's actually what was sort of most disturbing about the assault and the mind meld scene was that she started off wanting it, and it was a big, she had to say no for it to become an assault, but you could see the mixed feelings, and Jolene played that really well.
Right.
It opens up a question that why didn't the Vulcan High Command stop this?
Stop them?
Stop them, what they were doing.
I think they probably, well, one thing maybe because Kov was the son of a big ministry guy.
Right.
And they probably thought that as long as these people were not interacting with anybody else on the planet, they were sort of exiled, maybe even. That the other thing too was, as a society, if you've got your religion and someone is questioning it, you basically you're not, yeah, you kill them or you get rid of them. But Vulcans are not that obviously not that violent, but they're also, I think they, just like they repress and push their emotions down, just like they push down any talk of the Ponfar and the mating rituals and the fight to the death and all that kind of stuff. They push this down too.
Yeah, they're obviously quite. I mean, when the temper surfaces, you see in Talaris, he's a tough dude, and he throws that captain
right across,
clear across that desk like nothing.
I know, and that's what Vulcans are, afraid of.
Yeah.
That they can lose it like that, and that's also why they're so quiet about their mating rituals, because they also bring out a
The lion. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
The roar. Apparently, Vince Diedrich was gonna double Scott in that in his ready room, but it was too small a space, and Scott actually did that stunt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Up and all the way down?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. God, man,
Wow.
he was. I mean, I remember we've said this before, but he turned 50 on our show, and I remember thinking at the time, "Fucking hell, that's old."
Yes, out of the mouths of babes.
Oh, I'd give my back teeth if I had any left.
But I also remember something, it wasn't in this episode, but like from the beginning, Scott had said that he didn't want it to be a Star Trek where everybody gets sort of punched and kicked and thrown around and nobody ever bleeds and nobody ever shows bruises or anything else. So,
no, we had plenty of bruises. I mean,
yeah.
we did good bruises. That fight I had with Steve Culp, I love
Oh, yeah.
when we're both held up in front of the headmaster.
The last thing I need is to hear that two of my senior officers have been admitted to sickbay because they suddenly regressed to the level of 5-year-olds.
Cut nose, blooded eyes, and and they're standing there like school children. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember, at least for my character, I probably twice in the entirety of our series said anything to the office about my character. In your experience, while you were there, how often was Scott involved in these sorts of conversations?
He wasn't involved with them with me, so I would only hear about them as an aside from if they came up to affect the scripts we were doing, or maybe an aside when we were in the room with Brannon and he might. So, I don't know how often it is, but I do know that when we were doing Strange New World, which was our second after the two-part pilot, so it was episode 4, we ran into like our first dilemma slash disaster, when in the story we were going to have a crewman die, and he because of being down on the surface, etc.
Yeah, with the spores and
yeah, exactly. And then we bring him back, we're able to bring him back up to the ship, and in the original script, which Mike and I wrote, there was no further mention of him. And I remember getting called into Brannon's office, and he was in a panic because we were shooting, and he had gotten word from Scott that the captain couldn't just forget about his first casualty, couldn't just not address it in any way.
Right.
So we were sitting there, people were throwing out, we can do a walk and talk here, we can do a little, clip of a funeral there or something like that. We can have Scott Archer talk to whoever's still on, I think to Paul.
A lonely rose in the mess hall.
Right. There were all these stories, and then I just raised my hand and said, what if he didn't have to die? And they were like, what? I said, well, what if you actually got him up there and you had a treatment for him, but the problem is we can't transport it down to the surface, so it does no good to our characters there, so their jeopardy stays the same.
All right.
But we can avoid all of this.
So the storm,
ecstasy.
because then that's why the storm lasted a lot longer, didn't it? And they
Yeah.
couldn't use it there. They couldn't transport them up. They couldn't do anything. So they were stuck dealing with their situation. Right. I remember. Yeah.
Exactly.
Bless Scott, because I found myself going like, Jesus Christ, what are salmon pages? And I'm just trying
and
to
that
get
was part of it, and that was our first.
Come on, I learned turquoise 2 weeks ago.
Oh, remember that was so early in our process. That was like really the first one that was not written by
they look like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to have someone who's the number one on your call sheet and the leader of the whole thing have I don't know where he found it, raising the kids at their age that they were, be able to, determine, have conversations with you all and say, well, we can't do that. There was never a moment in that first year where I was doing anything but feeling underwater about trying to learn my own goddamn lines.
Absolutely. Well, in the same way, we were feeling underwater about how to write these scripts. And I remember on Strange New Worlds, we wrote a draft and Brandon came up and it was just covered.
Covered in notes.
Yeah, covered in notes. And we were just, devastated. And then there were definitely all-nighters at times and things like that where we were putting Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Wow. No, I mean, I've said this before, it's a feat unrivaled.
Yeah.
A variation of a theme for 17 years or thereabouts. And they're still doing it. I mean, obviously with a different crew now writing the stuff and
absolutely. And
started up again.
I just started watching Strange New Worlds.
I'm gonna have a look at it. I heard it starts with a huge battle. And
yes, it's a continuation of a huge battle that they cliffhangered off on the previous season.
Yeah.
And then they do an interesting one. I find one of the things that they do a lot on the new series is that they do a lot of callbacks to the original Next Gen, to us.
Yep.
Things like that.
Yeah. And, it sort of ties it all together quite sweetly.
Yeah, exactly.
They're taking some big swings too. I mean, to use the lower decks crew and bring them on as live action characters.
That was fantastic.
The musical episode. I mean, those are some big swings.
That musical episode is one of the best things they've ever done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Back to this episode, it was, I think, one of the best caps of any episode we ever had.
All right.
When Archer comes in and T'Pol asks him,
"Do you dream?
And how are your dreams?" He says, sometimes I dream in color.
Is it enjoyable?
Most nights.
And the last thing that she says,
"I envy you."
Is I envy
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again,
beautiful.
Yeah. It is. It's a very nice button on the whole episode. That
it's so much about her character.
Yes, and emotionality in general. And whatever this odd aspect of having that dimensional thought is
Yeah, definitely. It also, once again, puts her on a very long path towards assimilating more with humans and questioning her logical, rational, completely non-emotional.
Yeah, maybe to the point where a relationship with the engineer 2 years later or something is not
Possible.
doesn't come out of left field. Yeah.
No, it's not. When you rewatch all of these, you can see the little hints in there, and some of them are some of them got expanded because we accidentally put them in at the beginning. In
Right.
other words, this
I think Manny was praised for sort of tying up some what seemed to be loose ends when he came on as the showrunner in season 4. That were left hanging there. And I'm in by no means a Star Trek aficionado. I've become a little more knowledgeable in the years since we've been doing these shows, but
I can imagine.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware that there was rumblings in the in the stratosphere about some of the stuff that was left hanging loose on the Star Trek tree of ours.
One of the things that I think Rick and Brandon created was this idea of meditating to
as
keep,
a practice to maintain their equilibrium. Right.
Exactly. That
And
was
control their
not
dreams.
in any
And
other.
to control their dreams.
Right.
Yep. That was not in any other.
She had this wacky dream that we all have them, that you wake up the next day and you're like, holy smokes, I'm a freak.
Yep.
I woke up this morning and thank God in the dream, someone had broken into the house and stolen all my cash and my watches. And I thought it was real. And I woke up and went,
yeah. Oh, it's
God.
a terrible feeling.
I nearly went to the drawer to check that the watches were still in there.
It's interesting. Like, for instance, I'd ask all of you this question. Like, I rarely remember my dreams.
I do now. I mean, I've dreamed quite a lot lately in the last 2 or 3 years.
It's an actual
almost
practice.
Every night. And
practice. You can think of how to remember your dreams.
Yeah.
And
they will vanish like that. Though,
they do vanish. I do
like
remember them, and I also have the same kind of feeling that Dom did about being chased or being in some emotional state and waking up with that state and not necessarily knowing what caused it. But
mine are never happy. I got to tell you, it's never,
yeah.
They're never like, oh, this is fun. Oh, let's go lucid.
No, we're all working out all of our.
It's always something vexing, something I can't get the square peg in the round hole.
Oh God! Or that college paper. I keep going back to I haven't done the reading for this history class that I'm not going to graduate if I don't do, and I literally wake up and I'm like, I graduated more years ago than I care to admit.
There you go.
There's two different thoughts on this. The Eastern thought is if you don't remember your dreams, you have a settled mind. The Western thought of this is if you don't remember your dreams, you're hiding or cloaking something, and that you're not, evaluating them or dealing with them. And I prefer to go with the Eastern thought.
I'll go with the Eastern.
For your dreams.
You're good. Yeah.
Right. I think my mind is a little more unsettled, but I also say that sometimes the creativity comes overnight. So there's sometimes when I'm actually, caught on things. And this happens a lot with writers. You're absolutely caught on, you're blocked on a problem of trying how to fix something, how to make it better, how to meet the note. And you go do something that's intellectual, whether it's for some it's gardening or fixing up your house or doing whatever it is. And sometimes it's just taking a night on it, sleeping on it.
Yeah.
And you can sort of wake up and go, that was silly.
Right.
I got this.
But it's a progression of something. It's a progression of what's going on in your brain, and then you in your conscious life versus your unconscious life, you are working together, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it also makes you think that, like I said, Jesus Christ, I'm weird.
Well, anybody, writers particularly, they're weird, they're frauds, they're never going to work again. That's big part for the
Phyllis, artists are thieves. We're all thieves.
Yeah.
We're thieves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are. I mean, literally. I mean, you see someone's performance from 30 years ago. I'll pinch that and put that. I'll put in that in somewhere. Yeah. I mean, Alan Bennett is famous, the English writer. I mean, he just used to sit on the bus and listen to two old women talk, and he'd make a play out of it. And
oh my God, I got to get out more.
Yeah. Well, it's been lovely chatting with you, darling.
It's been wonderful.
And we must have you back for one of the next episodes when we come to it. So
absolutely. It's a pleasure. And you guys you're hitting this one out of the park. This podcast is so popular.
Oh, thank you, darling. That's
thank you. And bless you for coming on and talking about fusion. And as Dom said, let's do it again when you're back up in the line.
Great. Sounds perfect. All right, guys. It was great.
Big kiss.
Bye.
Yeah, for now.
Kiss to all of you. And I will see you another time.